Most individuals want their wedding day to be flawless when they dream about it. They want the people they care about the most to be there. They wish for it to be the most joyful day of their lives. When I got engaged to my fiancé, Matt, who is 30 years old, last year, I also wanted that. My father stepped up and covered the entire cost of my wedding, even though we didn't really have a relationship when I was growing up. Perhaps, I reasoned, things were finally beginning to improve. That is, until the evening before my wedding, my father sat me down and revealed his true plans. For as long as I can remember, my father and I have had a strained relationship. He wasn't a horrible guy, but he never truly helped me out when I needed it. He remarried while I was young, and he seemed to devote all of his attention to his new wife after that. I was always regarded as a last-minute idea as a child, someone he checked in on but never really cared about. For the most part, my mother reared me alone. She was my rock and supported me through everything. But my stepmother was something else entirely. Since the day she came into my life, I have never felt close to her. Her lack of interest in forming a relationship with me was evident. Instead, she seemed intent on asserting her power and making sure I knew where I stood. She was judgmental, cunning, and demanding. There was more to it than the usual conflict between stepfamilies. She purposefully made my life difficult. Although she was never overtly mean, I felt inferior and out of place because of her subtle jabs and caustic remarks. Regretfully, my father disregarded everything. He seemed to care just that he was content with her. I didn't have big hopes for my father when Matt and I got engaged. I assumed he would show up to the wedding, say something nice, and then go back to his own life. He surprised me by offering to assist with the wedding expenses. At first, I wasn't sure what to think. I was surprised by his unexpected generosity because he has never been the kind of father to become overly involved in my life. Despite my reluctance, Matt and I were grateful, and I secretly hoped that this was his way of repenting for his past transgressions and becoming the parent I had always desired. The process of organizing the wedding went without a hitch. My father kept a polite distance from me for months, which I valued. He made a monetary contribution, but refrained from meddling in Matt's or my choices. I felt like things were finally coming together as my mother, and I took care of the majority of the details. However, I was unable to shake the feeling that there was more to my father's sudden involvement. It just did not feel right. But I pushed those feelings aside, telling myself I was overthinking it and that he was truly making up for lost time. Then everything changed. The night before the wedding, my father sat me down for a conversation I will never forget. He was not interested in discussing the wedding arrangements or offering words of support. Instead, he mocked a request that completely shocked me. I would have to make a special speech during the reception, he informed me. In public, he insisted that I call my stepmother, his wife, my real mother. He wanted me to stand in front of everyone and express my gratitude to her for purported influence on my life, for everything that she had done to raise me, and for being a caring and encouraging role model for me as a youngster. At my wedding, I was requested to honor this woman. I felt like I didn't belong and that this woman had only made my life harder. It was a crazy concept. I never considered my stepmother to be a mother. I wasn't going to act like she was in front of all my friends and family because she was never even a friend. The request from my father seemed like a betrayal. He was now requesting that I pretend to adore her and that it had been years since she had caused me to feel bad. I didn't want to start a fight the night before my wedding, especially after having to put up with her conduct for so long and keep silent to keep the peace. I nodded and said I would give it some thought. However, I secretly knew that I couldn't deliver the speech he requested. With everyone there who truly loved and supported us, my wedding was meant to be a memorable celebration of my relationship with Matt. I refused to allow my father to use it as an excuse to make me act as though his wife was divine. The following day, everything appeared to be ideal. Our loved ones were all around Matt and me. I felt like the happiest person alive with the amazing venue. My father's demand, however, weighed heavily on my mind. I knew I would have to give my speech at some point during the reception, but I had not decided what I was going to say yet. When the moment finally arrived, as I had planned, I thanked my parents for their support. However, I found it difficult to say what my dad wanted me to say about my stepmother. Rather, I thanked her for all the horrible things she had done to me over the years in a straightforward and pointed acknowledgement. It was not a long speech, but it was enough to make everyone in the room realize that things were not as perfect as my father wanted them to believe. I could feel the tension in the room the moment I finished speaking. People were not sure how to react. My father's face became red with rage, and I could see the shock in my stepmother's eyes. They had been exposed. The facade they had worked so hard to keep up for all these years had crumbled in an instant. My father had spent years pretending that everything was fine and that his new family was ideal, and I had just snapped his pretense with a few words. Things quickly got worse following the wedding. My father was furious with me because I went against his wishes. He called me ungrateful and disrespectful. He could not understand why I had not simply followed his plan, why I had not been willing to contribute to the happy family image he desired. But in my heart, I knew I had done the right thing. I was not going to lie about my stepmother or pretend that she had not caused me so much pain. A few weeks after the wedding, I got a legal notice in the mail. My father demanded that I repay him for the money he had spent on the wedding. The notice detailed each bill, from the venue to the flowers, and the total was enormous. It was clear that for him, this was about more than just money. It was about authority. He wanted to punish me for not giving him the speech he wanted and for not recognizing his wife as my real mother. This was his way of reminding me that he still had authority over me and could make my life difficult if I did not do what he wanted. I was completely devastated. I had hoped that my father had helped with the wedding out of love, but now it was clear that his financial support came with conditions. His generosity was just another tool for manipulating me. He seemed more concerned with preserving the image of his new family than with my happiness. Matt has been incredibly supportive throughout the entire process. My lawyer assured me that my dad did not have a strong case. As the legal battle dragged on, there had been no formal agreement that I would repay the money. Everything had been given with the expectation that it was a parental contribution, not a loan. But that did not stop my father from pursuing the case. It became clear that this was more about causing me pain than recovering his money. My relationship with my father deteriorated even more after the legal notice. We did not talk much, and when we did, it was always heated. He expected me to apologize and somehow make amends for what I had said at the wedding. But I could not make myself do it. I had spent my entire life trying to please him, to be the daughter he wanted. I was not willing to do it any longer. The wedding served as a turning point in my life. It was at this point that I realized I could not change my father or make him see things my way. However, as I write this, I am caught in a dilemma. Maybe I did not have to go against my father in this way. He and his wife were horrible to me, but that did not mean I had to be horrible to them. I feel like at some point I would have at least had a relationship with my dad if I had not done this. And I am not sure if that was the right decision for me to make now. Maybe I should not have publicly humiliated them. Update 1. Hey guys. So it has been 2 months since my father issued the legal notice demanding compensation for the wedding. To say that the last few months have been difficult would be an understatement. While my lawyer guarantees that there is not much to worry about in terms of legal issues, the emotional impact has been overwhelming. It is like someone has drawn a line, and you cannot go back. Initially, I found myself thinking about the events of my wedding. Was there anything I could have done differently? Maybe I should have ignored my father's request and avoided talking about my stepmother at all. But every time I got down that road, I remember how I felt in that moment. How years of frustration and hurt shot up to the surface. How I could no longer pretend that everything was fine. It was impossible for me to stand there and lie about our relationship. However, the consequences of my decisions still sting. Matt has been my rock through it all. He has stood by me while I have vented, cried, and second-guessed myself, all the while believing that I had every right to tell the truth. He reminds me that this wedding was supposed to be a celebration for us, not a platform for family politics. His constant support kept me rational. I consider myself blessed to have him by my side, especially as things with my father continue to get worse. My lawyer responded to the legal notice with a formal letter stating that there was no agreement for repayment. My father's contributions were made freely as a gift, not a loan. It seems unbelievable that lawyers are involved in what should have been a happy family occasion. I know I have said it a million times, but what hurts the most, despite the legal battle, is not the financial demand. It is the simple fact that my father values control over our relationship. I tried to contact my father soon after receiving the notice, hoping that we could resolve this outside of court. I thought that if we sat down and talked, we might be able to reach an agreement. I was even willing to repay him, but he did not want the money right away. It was clear very quickly that he was not interested in reconciliation, only in taking back what he believed he was owed. He believes I disrespected him and his wife and should pay the consequences. It feels like the final nail in the coffin of any previous relationship we had. My stepmother has remained completely silent throughout this ordeal. I have not heard anything from her, and I think she's happy to let my father handle things. That silence, however, speaks a great deal to me. She has never cared about having a genuine relationship with me, and now she has no reason to pretend. If anything, she will see this as a victory. My father, as always, is on her side. All of this has left my mother heartbroken. She has witnessed firsthand how my father's absence affected me as I grew up. And now she's watching as our relationship falls apart completely. She's trying her hardest to help me, I know that, but I can see that she's really hurt by all of this. She had always hoped that my father and I could find a way to bridge the gap. But it appears that the gap has only grown bigger. Now I'm caught between wanting to stand up for myself and not wanting to lose my father completely. But as time passed, it became clear that the relationship we had was never truly what I wanted or needed. My father has always been distant, emotionally unavailable, and consumed by his own life, especially with my stepmother. I guess I have always had the hope that one day things would change. That he would finally see me, understand me, and show me the love and support I have always wanted. But now I realize it might never happen. My father wants to assert his dominance, to remind me that he is in charge, but I will not give him that power. I refuse to be manipulated any longer. Even though it is draining, I know that standing firm is the only way to truly break free from the emotional hold he has had on me for so many years. As the court date approaches, I am preparing myself for the worst. I'm aware that this will not be an easy task, and that my father will most likely make things as difficult as he can. However, I know that I have Matt, my mother, and a group of friends who will always be there for me. I have no idea what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel a sense of clarity. I'm not the same as I was before the wedding. I have grown and am learning to prioritize my own well-being, even if it means leaving people who were supposed to love me. Update 2. 5 months have passed since my father's legal notice. While the situation is far from over, I have found peace amid the chaos. The legal process is taking longer than I expected, with several back and forths between our lawyers. My father has kept on demanding that I repay him for the wedding costs, while my lawyer is continuing to argue that there was no expectation of repayment. The case is not particularly strong on my father's part, but the emotional weight of it is still very much present. In the months following the wedding, I have had time to reflect on everything that has taken place. The initial shock and anger have faded, to be replaced in some ways by an overwhelming sadness and acceptance. It is becoming clearer to me that my father's actions are not only about the wedding speech, but about something much deeper. His inability to let go of control and his need to assert his authority, even at the expense of his relationship with his daughter. I have come to terms with the fact that my relationship with my father may never recover. He has made it clear, through both his words and actions, that he values his pride and his image more than he values his daughter and his connection with her. Growing up, I used to think that if I just tried harder, if I was more patient or more understanding, maybe things would change and get better. But now I see that no amount of effort on my part can fix what has been broken for so long. And if at all, our relationship had to improve, he had to put in efforts as well. In an odd way, the legal battle has forced me to face the reality of my relationship with my father. For years, I have held on to an unattainable version of him, one in which he cares deeply about me, is willing to work on our relationship, and wishes to be a meaningful part of my life. But the truth is, that version of him has never existed. He has always been distant, and now he's showing me how far he will go to keep control. I have stopped trying to contact my father. After months of silence from him, except through our lawyers, I realized that continuing to try to make things right would only hurt me more. I have done my part by trying to communicate, find common ground, and understand his point of view, but he is clearly not interested in meeting me halfway. That realization was painful, like a final confirmation that the father I wanted and needed would not be there for me in the way I had always hoped. Letting go has been difficult, but it has also been liberating. I no longer feel compelled to seek his approval or go to great lengths to please him. I have come to terms with the possibility that the legal case may take longer to resolve than I had anticipated. Even though I still wish it would end quickly, I just want it all to be over. I have not even had time to breathe since my wedding. I'm hoping to get this done as soon as possible. Update 3. It has been 8 months since I received that awful legal notice from my father, and it still hurts. It is hard to believe it has been so long because everything feels like it happened yesterday. The shock has worn off a bit, but the frustration still exists. I never imagined myself in a legal battle with my own father, and the thought of it makes me feel like I'm in a bad dream that I cannot wake up from. The legal process is taking longer than expected. As my lawyer warned me, there has been back and forth between the lawyers, a lot of paperwork and more waiting than I expected. I guess I assumed it would be over by now, but that was probably wishful thinking. According to my lawyer, cases like this can drag on for a while, particularly when there are strong feelings involved. And wow, are there strong feelings involved in this case? It is not even about money. It never was, at least for me. For my father, I'm sure that's still part of it, but for me, this feels more like a power struggle. It is as if my father is trying to prove a point to show me that he still has control, even though I am an adult with my own life now. I was always nervous at the beginning of all this. My heart raced whenever I received a letter or an update from my lawyer. I would lose sleep over it, replaying conversations in my head and trying to figure out what went wrong. I kept wondering if I should have followed my father's wishes at the wedding, even though I knew deep down that I could not have done it. But as time went on, I realized that even though it resulted in this mess, I had made the right decision for me. The anxiety is still there, but it is not as overwhelming as it was in the early months. I am learning to deal with it and keep it from taking over my life completely. In a strange way, this entire experience has made me more aware of the people I do want in my life. Matt and I have grown even closer during this process, and I do not know what I would do without him. He has been my rock through it all, reminding me that we are creating our own lives together, and that, in the bigger picture of things, my father's drama does not have to define our future. We have been working on our plans, looking at houses, and discussing the type of life we want to lead. It has been a nice distraction from the chaos, and it has helped me remember what is truly important. Matt's support has been invaluable, but my mother has also been a huge source of strength for me. She has seen me through a lot over the years, and this situation is no exception. She's heartbroken about how things have turned out with my father, but she has never made me feel wrong. If anything, she reminded me that it is okay to stand up for myself, even if it is uncomfortable. I believe she understands better than anyone how difficult my father can be and how difficult this has been for me. And just having her on my side makes all the difference. I have also relied more on my friends than I ever imagined I would. They have been there to remind me that while the legal mess is huge right now, it will not define my life forever. When I get too caught up in it, they are the ones who pull me out of it and help me see the big picture. We've had more wine nights than I can count, just sitting around talking about everything from the lawsuit to random topics like new shows or silly high school memories. It served as a reminder that despite how it may appear, I am not alone in this. One of the most difficult aspects of this entire experience has been coming to terms with the fact that my father and I may never have the relationship I had hoped for. I have spent so many years trying to work things out with him, hoping that one day we would get closer or that he would finally see me for who I am. But after everything that has happened, I realize that that may never happen. And while this is painful to accept, it is also freeing in some ways. I'm giving up hope that he will suddenly change and become the father I always wanted. Instead, I'm focusing on the relationships in my life that are positive and supportive. I believe the most significant shift for me over the last 8 months has been realizing that I do not have to keep chasing something that is not there. I have spent so much time trying to mend my relationship with my father, trying to be the daughter he expects of me, whereas he has never tried to be the father I expected him to be. And I'm tired of it. It is exhausting and not fair to me. I cannot keep bending over backward to make him happy, especially if it means sacrificing my own mental health. It has taken some time for me to let go of that pressure, but I'm getting there. Of course, I'm still dealing with the legal difficulties. There are still certain issues that need to be settled, and my father might make this take even longer. However, I'm making an effort not to be very concerned about that prospect. Right now, I'm focusing on what I can manage and taking things one day at a time. I've come to the realization that I can't compel my father to change or adopt my viewpoint. I am currently concentrating on protecting myself and my happiness because there's nothing else I can do. Fourth update. Fortunately, this ordeal has finally come to an end a year after my father sent that legal notification. I am quite relieved that the issue was formally settled a few weeks ago. After months of back and forth, we were able to reach an out-of-court settlement, so this case won't be prolonged or involve any more lawyers or paperwork. I feel as though a burden has been removed off my shoulders. I ultimately had to cover some of the wedding expenses. I'm just glad it's over now, even though it wasn't what I had anticipated. My lawyer and I agreed that settling was the best option, and while it was a difficult decision, I knew it was the right one. I could have continued fighting, but I was tired. I did not want to spend another year caught up in this drama, constantly checking my lawyer's emails for updates. It was not worth the emotional toll it was having on me. Now that the legal battle is over, I can get back to living my life. Matt and I purchased our first home a few months ago, and it has been such a positive change in our lives. Moving into our own space has felt like a fresh start. We have been busy decorating, painting, and making the space our own. It is nice to have something to look forward to that is solely focused on us and our future together. The house is ideal for us. It's not huge, but it is cozy, and I enjoy the fact that we are creating something together. Having the house has also provided me with a fresh perspective on everything that has happened with my father. For so long, I was overwhelmed by the legal battle and the emotions that accompanied it. But now that it's over, I can finally see the big picture. My life is progressing, and while my relationship with my father may never be what I wanted, I am fine with that. It is sad, of course, but I have accepted that some things just are not meant to be. My dad is not going to change, so I cannot keep hoping for that to happen. I doubt it will happen. I have not heard much from my father since the settlement, and I honestly do not expect to. Our relationship is practically non-existent at this point, And while it hurts, I am not as devastated as I expected. I think I had been lamenting the breakup of that relationship for years before the legal problems even arose. I had come to terms with the possibility that I might never be close to my father. It is somewhat soothing, but it is also depressing. I don't have to keep trying to fix something that's broken beyond repair. My stepmother has completely vanished from my life, and I'm fine with that. She was not really a part of it to begin with, so I do not feel like I'm missing anything. My father made his decision when he married her, and I made mine by walking away from both. I feel like, now that I have released all that baggage, though it is difficult to put into words, I'm not constantly thinking about them or worried about what they are going to say or do. I have moved on, and it feels good. Matt's family has been incredible throughout this difficult time. They greeted me warmly and provided the love and support I needed. Eating meals together and laughing with them has given me a warm and comforting feeling that I genuinely appreciate. Their kindness has shown me what a healthy family looks like, which is very different from my own experiences. I realize that family encompasses more than just biological ties. It's about looking out for each other. I am honored to have been a part of their lives and am looking forward to making more amazing memories with them. When I think back on the past year, I've learned a lot about who I am and what I want out of life. Letting go of unhealthy relationships has given me strength, but my connection with my father has changed permanently. Throughout this journey, my mother has showed me so much love and support, and she has always been my rock. I've also been pleased to have Matt and his amazing family here. I've established limits, picked up new interests, and prioritized my health. Despite the challenges along the way, I have come to understand that true family is about love and support. I am eager to start a joyful life filled with sincere relationships and the love I deserve, and I am optimistic about the future. I sincerely hope that my father and stepmother's drama is ended and that they will never again be a part of my life.